All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, where I do see that chat is working just fine. Lemon curd 0 and a fine day for the clank. 3-degree cut. Clank, clank, clanks. Merry clanksters. Ma Dib says morning, clankers. And of course, Spaz Out says Taco Tuesday, clankers. Now having tacos today, I'm making a nice fried fish and a little bit of mashed potato and some Brussels sprouts later. That's what I call dinner. I don't understand people who roast the Brussels sprouts, though. They taste better when they're just boiled and then served with a shit ton of butter. So anyway, we've got lots and lots to cover today. We've got, of course, the Chutkans case. I talked about that yesterday. I had an extra video. That's the main news. Of course, the kitty has decided to come up here and distract me. Hello, kitty. We'll be talking about that. Nikki Haley astroturfing. That's a big one right now. Haley hauls in $1 million in 72 hours after the first GOP presidential primary debate. The funny part is that Nikki Haley is arguably outraising Ron DeSantis at the moment. I would say that would be more apt as a news title, but they decided to leave that part out. I wonder fucking why. And we got to talk about the Taliban, Joe Biden's friends. They have great human rights records with regards to women's rights, and they're doing the predictable. We'll talk about the Afghanistan situation, now going several years after the withdrawal from Afghanistan that was so terribly botched, and why it was botched and how. We'll talk a little bit of sociopolitics there, of course, because a lot of people don't understand Central Asian politics, and really, if you do understand it, you understand why Joe Biden fucked up as bad as he did. Awesome Diesel with the first super chat of the day. Stick shout out for Acme diesel powered anvils. They have a new Roadrunner Downer model. Interesting. I get the Looney Tunes reference, of course. Yeah, red dirt, because you caramelize the sprouts when sauteed. Yeah, but I did that once, and I don't know. I just prefer them boiled, and then a heap of butter on top. I don't know. I don't understand people who don't like green vegetables. The Emperor's Champion. Is there anything we can do to stop Chutkans? You mean Chutkans? By the way, look up the meaning of the word chut in Hindi, and then you'll have a good laugh at her expense with regards to her name. Incidentally, last night I was watching the Little India Grill prank calls, the soundboard prank calls that they did. They're calling into this restaurant called the Little India Grill, and it was funny. There was one call. This dude calls in, he's like, "You're not spicy enough, you mother chota." And it's considered a significant insult within the Hindi-speaking community. One of the greatest things ever made, by the way. I know I'm deviating from the news cycle here with my commentary, but who cares? I can also rant, and people seem to like that. Stephen Duller, we need to start naming Obama for being complicit in agreeing to fire Shokin. Absolutely. Biden told us that on video that Obama would have had to have done it. Just a second here. What the fuck is happening over there? I guess it's fine. Anyway, we'll start right in with the news. Trump's D.C. trial set for March 4th, 2024. One day before Super Tuesday. Judge Chutkan reveals ex-president will stand trial in January 6 case before the election, as his lawyers claim a show trial. Which is what it is. What's happening right now is daisy chaining within the legal system. You have multiple cases against a former president / current frontrunner. And the whole idea is to very transparently put forth trial dates and procedural shit that will enrage Trump supporters. In the end, the whole goal is to try to make you flip out and go shooting or something like that. And I don't think it'll work, but that's definitely what they're aiming for. The main goal of these indictments is to stop Trump from winning the nomination. They would like to cut the head off the snake right away, prevent him from being the nominee, because then they have to deal with a more tenuous situation. Assuming he wins the nomination, they're hoping to bog him down in proceedings during the general election, so he can't really campaign. He can't raise money as much. He's incapable of even talking about his opponent without potentially breaching some court protocol, which is very stringent. And I suggested the other day, why don't these people just set up a situation where Trump has to appear in person at exactly the same time on exactly the same day in multiple courts. Because, I mean, and then hold him in contempt. That would be more transparent. It would be obvious what you're doing. You're being very obvious now. Why don't you just go ahead and screw him in the ass right now and show your ass and show the American people the prosecutorial, or rather persecutorial system that you really are taking part in? That's really what it is about. It's about trying to stop Donald Trump. Not just because of Donald Trump, though. They're worried about what others may do if he wins. Fire down below. What's with the Bob Barker Mandela effect? I thought he died years ago, and a lot of other people have the same confusion. No, I knew that he was alive. There's no Mandela effect there. The Mandela effect is an interesting concept. I actually made an occult video about that some time ago, where I dispel that as basically a mythology. It's like the Berenstain Bears. Stein sounds more logical than stain to a young child, because they've been introduced to what? Frankenstein and things like that. So the fact that it would be Stain instead of Stein on the end of Baron would make more sense, effectively. And so people are just misremembering because of that. Nick Burgett, clanking from Albuquerque, Trump 2024, baby. Yeah, I don't think that he's going to get New Mexico. There actually was polling, I think. Let me look that up. I think there was a poll released today or the other day. Yeah, what's he at in New Mexico in a matchup versus Biden? Yeah, it was the other day. New Mexico, Trump versus Biden. Biden is 8 points ahead. Underwhelming, to be sure, in a state that has been tilting off crazily into blue land. But yeah, I think that Biden would win New Mexico. So yeah, the Mandela effect is easily explained by people misremembering things based on things in their mind simply making more sense than the reality. It's like the fruit of the loom. When you've got a pile of fruit, the concept of a cornucopia behind it makes sense. Now, apparently that was never really branded. There's also the possibility that some ripoffs slipped in there, and they did have a cornucopia in them to beat the copyright law, so to speak. So you may have seen the cornucopia and the fruit of the loom underwear at some point in your life. I do remember actually seeing that. It's probably because it was an off-brand made in China. Ministry of Wrongthink. Imagine if Trump ran on a prison reform platform after getting locked up. That would be quite funny, actually. Yeah, that you could do worse than that. Let's see. Wasted Bonehead, good morning from the grave. Our zombie has arrived early today. Awesome Diesel. Can we get a Salty Clanker crossover? Yeah, I'd be willing to talk with Salty Cracker at any time, of course. Right now, I'm not on a great time zone to be interacting with basically any of the other content creators that I talk to, though. The problem is I'm in the Netherlands, so it's about, I think, a 7-hour difference or something. And when you have a child, as I do, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Awesome Diesel. 3 Degree Cut says, Swamp, ree, honk, clank. Yeah, I would love to do a lot of appearances, debates, general appearances, interviews, things like that, interviewing other people. I've been asked to do that probably 100 times so far this year, but the problem is I'm on the wrong time zone, so I don't have the time to do it. When you have a child, you must sacrifice a few things. So yeah, the first news of the day, Chutkan knows what she's doing. It's not coincidental that they chose the day before Super Tuesday for the trial appearance. Also, Chutkan has ties to Hunter Biden as well as to Marxism. Yeah, and is an Obama appointee. Yeah, there's no conflict of interest there at all. Totally coincidental. You're a conspiracy theorist. Godsmack AR69. Sticks, love you, bud. But I was disheartened the other day when you said Republicans shouldn't campaign in my great state of Wisconsin. Don't let Scott Presler's work be in vain. Remember, black pill. Yeah, I mean, you can, but the thing is, if the Wisconsin Supreme Court has fallen to leftoidism, it doesn't really matter who's voting. Now, does it? They will declare that the victor is Joe Biden or whatever Dem candidate they have. I think it would be better to take those millions of dollars and campaign in Michigan, actually, at this point. Focus on 4 states. Nevada, number 1. Georgia, that's a big one. Virginia, totally winnable. And New Hampshire, actually. You can grab New Hampshire from the Democratic Party if you try. Next news story. Haley hauls 1 million in 72 hours after the first GOP presidential primary debate. Nikki Haley touts fantastic response to her performance in last week's Republican presidential primary debate. Oh, good for you. You made $1 million in 3 days. So, 1/7 as much as Donald Trump made in a 48-hour span. It's very, very impressive. They're astroturfing again. Ron DeSantis clearly is not going to be the Republican nominee. He's now fallen to 13 points in the aggregate, actually. So he's doing far worse than he was doing before. And since that, they are a little bit concerned because the problem is that Vivek Ramaswamy, I don't think that the swamp creatures think is capable of going forward. And he has his own quirks as well, admittedly, although he's more well-spoken than most of the candidates up on stage. Like, it's not going to be Christie. It's not going to be a Mike Pence. I love it when people still say, well, Mike Pence has a chance. He showed decorum. He has on-the-job experience. Yeah, but nobody cares. The thing is that decorum and on-the-job experience are not what people are generally looking for right now. They're looking for a leader to lead them out of the dark ages of Bidenomics, mainly. And Mike Pence is not going to be that guy. So since Ron DeSantis has flubbed, he's collapsed at this point. He's still going down. He didn't get a post-debate bump, and he's not going to. He's going to slip off into ignominious irrelevance. Vivek Ramaswamy has risen up, but they don't really like Ramaswamy. I think that some of them worry that he's a Trump surrogate effectively in the race to be the placeholder for Trump to take the lumps, to put himself forward, and maybe he gets a cabinet position. Thus, they're casting around for another person. Now, originally, the ace in the up the sleeve, should DeSantis fail, was Mike Pence. He fucked himself at the first appearance that he made there with the town hall and, saying not my concern when he's asked about literally anything other than Ukraine. Didn't go over so well. Now they're trying to astroturf Nikki Haley. It's very interesting that they passed up Chris Christie, who also saw a little bit of a post-debate bounce, actually. He was at 5 in one of those polls, which for him is really great. Now they're trying to do Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley is a generic warmongering neocon. She's basically George W. with a vagina, and there's nothing more to say about her. Now, the fact that she was even in Trump's inner circle at one time actually was regrettable. She cannot win, and she won't. I'm not concerned about her in the least. There's no reason even to really ridicule her or anything. The only person in the running, in the race, that was a threat to Donald Trump at any time was Ron DeSantis, and then a distant threat. He has dropped off the face of the earth. He's now at 13 points in the aggregate. He will not be the nominee. You'd be better off, though, going with him than going with Nikki Haley, who has to make up massive amounts of lost time. I'll predict what'll happen. It'll be just like 2016. Do you remember Trump started soaring up, and then over and over again, candidate after candidate, Ben Carson, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, and so forth, they would, Kasich, they would go up in the polls because they had one good quip, one good speech, one good rally, one good debate performance. They would peak, and then they would fall back down. They never hit the double digits. That's what's going to happen with Nikki Haley. I can see it plain as day now. She's not going to suddenly massively and magically rise up and become the second place candidate. She's going to rise up to 7 or 8 points in the aggregate, and then she's going to falter. It's plain as day. It's just what Mike Pence did. The only one who might buck this trend is Vivek Ramaswamy. And the problem being he's basically the man to beat up on the debate stage in the absence of Donald Trump being there. With Ron DeSantis faltering deeply now, there is nobody else. The field doesn't contain anyone who's particularly, do you think it's going to be Chris Christie? Is it going to be Tim Scott? Yeah, Tim Scott 2024 really has a ring to it. The problem is it's never going to happen. Nikki Haley will continue to rise for a while, and she'll go Kamala mode. And then she'll be on the short list of people that Donald Trump maybe has in his cabinet, and that's all. Sparky, greetings, fearless leader. Greetings to you, too. The Landlord Harassment Channel. I'm off to Netherlands. James Hetfield. Mr. Kangaroo, is there any YouTube channels you would recommend other than your own who covers occult paganism as well as esoteric occultism, if there's even a difference between the two? No, not really. I go by my own experiences, and I don't really like to muddy the waters by looking at other people's occult material, actually. Lego Creation 06. I'm driving to work, so make this show good. Lol. Have fun driving. Dan Malone 53. Why are they so afraid of Trump? Is it because they have something to hide? That and the fact that they're worried he'll inspire others. They're not so worried about Donald Trump, as I said this morning. If Trump is reelected, he will reform things, he will do his best, but he'll be obstructed a lot. So he will get some things accomplished, some things won't be accomplished. What they're worried about is an intergenerational populistic movement in which another person rises up and runs for the presidency. Maybe some people for gubernatorial positions, mayoral positions, people in the Senate, the House. They're worried about that much more than they are just Donald Trump. That's why they pulled out all of the stops in 2022 to stop all the populists. Mitch McConnell decided to throw $10 million better earmarked for other races like maybe Blake Masters or Herschel Walker to fight in a race where it was Republican versus Republican. These people are willing to waste a huge amount of taxpayers' money to try to defeat populism. The Emperor's Champion, abhor the leftist, the socialist, and the Marxist. Jake Iannarino, trying to break 5,000 subs. Every time I do, 200 subs suddenly disappear. Is it possible YouTube won't let me break 5K for some reason? Can I get a shout out? Love you, Sticks. No homo. All right, go and subscribe to Jake Iannarino. He's got a shout out. You can see his name there on the screen. Yeah, YouTube loves to do that. Aussie's Robots, morning Sticks and Clankers. If they had any integrity, the entire GOP field should resign until this lawfare scam ceased, but unfortunately they are complicit. I disagree. I have no problem with them running, including DeSantis the disingenuous. I don't care if they run at all. It may be unhelpful, but it's their right. There is no full-on incumbent in the race. Trump is only a technical incumbent, so I don't have any problem with them running. What I would say is that it's unhelpful. A messy primary is what the uniparty wants, including some Republicans. They want Trump to take his lumps. This is why he's decided not to go to the debates. What the fuck does he accomplish by going to them? He's going to get dogpiled by the also-rans for absolutely no reason other than the edification of the uniparty. The Patriot Cairo. Trump criminal case date set for interfering with the election. Interferes with the upcoming election. The cognitive conflict unnoticed by leftoids. Yeah, exactly. The higher court should step in and do something about it, but they won't, to be clear. Drexkin, noticing the anti-Trump ads are really getting pushed out now. They're not pro anyone or anything. They're purely anti-Trump. I have noticed that. Not on the internet, maybe. Rockstar Podcast, back from Vegas. Just enough money for a super chat. Hope you did well at the slot machines, my dude. Conservacuck says, clanking my riggers. The Grizzly 617. I remind you, sir, I am from the great state of Sheedolf Whitler. It would be 10 times easier to win Wisconsin than Michigan. Biden signs and masks everywhere. Here, it's like South California. Interesting. Fiona is my bitch. Greetings and salutations, Sticks, from behind enemy lines in Seattle. Please do speak with Salty. Ree! Yeah, I mean, all he's got to do is contact me. Huns with Guns. Michigan is a Dem trifecta. Wisconsin at least still has the state house and Senate. So why do you believe that Michigan is more likely to flip? Because of the larger plurality of blue-collar workers, mainly. It was flipped in 2016. Why can't it flip now? You think these people are gung-ho for Joe Biden? Yeah, I don't think so. Aussie's Robots, my 2 cents. Vivek is the GOP's version of Booty Judge. A lot of people are making that comparison, yeah. Wasted Bonehead. Sticks, get clanked. I don't have a spoon to clank with right now. Or a cup, actually. It's very sad. Also, we got to talk about something very special. Joe Biden giving a great gift to the women of Afghanistan. Taliban stop female Afghan students leaving country to study in Dubai. Yes, the Taliban has now locked down air travel in Afghanistan to prevent females from even going abroad to get an education. So it's not just they can't get educated within their own country. Now they can't even fly anywhere else to get an education, including to Dubai, which is, of course, an Islamic place. It's not a Christian enclave. It's not a Hindu enclave. It's basically 99% Islamists. They can't even go there now. The Taliban locking them down. I would point out, and I've pointed it out before, as we go around the anniversary of the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan, Joe Biden and his enclave are completely responsible for what happened in Afghanistan. I keep hearing from simps for Biden, well, Donald Trump brokered the peace agreement. He shouldn't have done that. He should have known better than to deal with the Taliban. Quick lesson in Central Asian politics. What is more important than anything else with regards to making agreements in a country in that region? Honoring the agreement. It doesn't matter if it's not necessarily perfect. You've got to honor it. If you go to someone and you say, hey, I want to marry your daughter, I've got goats and shit, and here's a bag of gold or something, and you say that you want to marry their daughter, and then you pull out, do you know what will happen to you? The village will lynch you. You will die. If you strike a business agreement, I would like to invest and build your building. Then you find out after you've already shaken hands that, hey, this investment's probably not a great idea, and so you renege on it. That's not a good idea because you will probably be beaten in the street and possibly lynched. Loyalty to your oath is more important to the people in the tribal regions, especially in Afghanistan, than anything else. What happened when Joe Biden took the initial agreement and said, okay, we'll honor it, but we're going to push back the date, is he broke the agreement. They don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter if you honor the agreement in full if you are pushing the date back, because that is not honoring your agreement. You had a specific date of withdrawal set by Donald Trump in association with the Taliban, the Afghan government, which collapsed, and certain tribal factions. Here's what happened when Joe Biden pushed the date back several months unilaterally. Having breached the agreement, the Taliban went to all the tribal warlords and said, look, the U.S. said that it would be out on such and such a date. They've decided not to be out on such and such a date. They've only got a handful of troops anyway. The Afghan military is effectually fucking useless. Now we've got our cause to march in. And so they marched on Kabul successfully, and they overran it. Those were not all Taliban fighters, mind you. Those were mainly tribal fighters. When the agreement was breached, the Taliban started looking like the good guys because of the enormous amount of importance that's put on actually going through with the agreement that you set. You shook the hand, you signed the paper, fucking go forward with it. It's not like in the Western world. What happens in the West if you make an agreement with somebody and then you renege on it? You get sued. You don't get put in the street with a tire around your neck and lit on fire. You don't get lynched. You don't get shot. You get sued. It's not the same in a place like Afghanistan. Biden, through sheer incompetence, in my opinion, didn't understand this. He didn't understand the importance of it because he didn't have any on-the-job training. He doesn't know anything shit from Shinola for sociopolitics. He doesn't. This is why the East Asian diplomacy is broken down. He doesn't know anything about their diplomacy. He doesn't know anything about their business making. Trump did. He's been in boardrooms in Japan and China and places like that. He knew about Central Asian politics, apparently. He made a handshake agreement with a trilateral faction plus the tribal warlords that would have stuck. The tribal forces that joined the Taliban never would have joined the Taliban in their surge against Kabul if the agreement had been honored on its original date. It would have been seen as unseemly. It would have been disloyal to your own oath. It would have been considered to be disgraceful. And they don't want to look disgraceful because then they, too, get deposed and killed. They would have honored the agreement. The Taliban wouldn't have had the numbers to overrun the Afghan military. The Afghan military, had you honored the original agreement, would have come out just fine. Afghanistan would still be under secular control by and large. There'd be Taliban enclaves. There'd be tribal warlords that are Islamist. But it wouldn't have impacted the area that was generally under the control by the Afghan government. The U.S. could have funded and provided a continuing guarantor of their safety, and the agreement would have held at least for the meantime. That's unfortunately not what happened. Now, look at Biden's record on women's rights. Oh, yeah, there are several million Afghan women who are effectively slaves now, including some that are college educated. Now they can be sold to the highest bidder like animals. How wonderful. Yeah, to all the pink hat, pussy hat wearers out there, why don't you cry and whine about that instead of crying about microaggressions on the subway in the United States? It's your boy Joe Biden that caused several million Afghan women to be suffering. Sparky, but Sticks, you blindly went with Nikki Haley blaming Prigozhin's death on Putin. Looks to me like it was more likely Ukrainian SBU at the behest of neo-colonialists fearing African domino theory. No, I think that it's standard Russian policy. Putin would have had him killed because he wants to send a message that I'll have you killed if you fuck with me. I mean, that's not a new thing in Eastern European / Russian politics. Apache, morning sticks, love from Georgia. Things have got much worse here, and it seems like people are pissed at Joe, but it's hard to read. Feels like Atlanta is a huge anchor on the state. Well, I mean, it's Atlanta, so yeah. Victor Papadopoulos, chasing the black vote for Republicans is a huge waste of time and fool's gold. What say you? I think that you don't need to chase it. It's organically parting from the Democratic Party. Yeah, some of those people will choose not to vote or something like that. Absolutely, and I've seen write-ups about that. I would admit to that. I think that Trump's share will be larger, though, this time around. And you don't need much of a nudge between that and Hispanic voters, really, to cripple the Democrats in certain inner city areas. Corto Maltese, if anything is going to be done, it should be done sub rosa, not vos magna. Sparky, there was a time that a person's word meant something to the West, too. Yeah, the problem is that Joe Biden's just too fucking stupid to understand why you would have a problem when you push the date back. He thought, well, come on, man. It's the same agreement. We just need a little bit longer. And then he didn't even bring the weapons and shit out of Afghanistan. He didn't even move them. Well, if you're going to do that, you know that the Taliban's going to be pissed at you. At the very least, move the fucking tanks first. But no, he had to leave behind $100 billion plus worth of machinery in Afghanistan for the Taliban that now controls effectively the whole country. Amy Hunter, good morning. Clank. Swamp Donkey, the next Trumpian figure, we will see what they did to Trump. Learn and be more brutal and cunning, much like the Roman reformist leaders were before Caesar rose to power. Awesome Diesel, Ubuk says, I fear Vivek is an Obama type. He does have a similar kind of cant about him, like the charisma. By the way, the cat's out there singing, trying to distract me. Wasted Bonehead, Sticks, Mardigra's cat is scared of Dark Brandon. Could we get a clank for the man's cat? Best I can do is to hit the microphone with the pen. I don't have a cup. I don't have a spoon. King of Biltong, good morning from Anton's in Roanoke, Texas. Free shipping for your Biltong and Sticks tumblers using code STICKS on antonsusa.com and landofbiltong.com. Thanks to Clanker Colby for visiting us. Hashtag Clank Nation. Yes, tumblers are now available there locally and I believe for shipping as well. I'll be getting more into that in the coming days. There are some merch things going on right now. Monty Fennell, shout out to Holistic Massage of Jacksonville. $20 off to the first 10 clankers who show up and use the code word clank. Ashley, you'd be surprised how much honoring deals and dates goes in Japan. Puts you above the other foreigners if you stand by deals. Exactly. And Joe Biden doesn't understand this, and that's the long and short of it. So I'm not surprised. I mean, the Taliban will take advantage of their situation and run roughshod over people because they can. They were given a cause to do so because the United States didn't honor its agreement. It's as simple as that. Next news story. Virginia Governor Youngkin eyes a 15-week abortion ban as a consensus voters would back. Yeah, I think that most voters would. So that's a cutoff of, about 3 months, a little bit after. And yeah, that's, by the way, brings Virginia, potentially, assuming that this passes, into the norm with regards to the rest of the developed world by and large. I would point out the right wing keeps overstretching on abortion in the United States and proposing bans or de facto bans, fucking 4-week cutoff or some crazy shit like that. And by the way, you can't get abortion pills so that you're forced to wait longer in order to get a surgical procedure. I'm not in favor of that. I've been loud and proud, and some of you don't like this, on the fact that I believe that abortion should be legal. That being said, I don't support late-term abortions, and the cutoff is arbitrary, admittedly. 15 weeks, 12 weeks, somewhere around there seems to be the consensus in most of the developed world. The United States, prior to Roe falling, ironically enough, was one of the most permissive nations in the world, other than Canada, and I think it was some Southeast Asian country. I think it was Vietnam, if I remember correctly, on the issue of abortion. Allowing, an abortion at 7 months is very, very abnormal. And by the way, a significant, at that point, surgical procedure. which would be better served by a C-section. Of course, if you don't want the baby because you just don't want the baby, you give it up for adoption. It's not necessarily the best thing in the world for the baby or potentially the psychology of the mother, but that does exist and has existed for a long time. We have cesarean sections. In my opinion, the cutoff should be roughly viability. So that would be a bit after 15 weeks, certainly. But 15 weeks is something that the average person, I think, would support. We're looking at the majority of people on the right and the left would not have a problem with this, I think. And abortion pills should be legal because if you don't have to have a surgical abortion, why would you force somebody to wait for one? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Youngkin, once again, in my opinion, is posturing himself for a run in 2028. He is now at the top of my stack for 2028 predictions for who will be the Republican nominee. If Trump is reelected and Youngkin, I don't think would be his running mate, although it's possible. His running mate would have to spar with a Youngkin who really is setting himself apart from much of the GOP crowd in that, unlike DeSantis, he had the wisdom not to step into the fray. Unlike people on the further right, he's not destroying himself over the issue of abortion. Unlike a lot of people, he's not overstretching on education. He simply stood for parental rights and said, look, we don't want porn in the schools, etc. He's effectively a nouveau moderate. Like in the wake of the populism in MAGA, he's the nouveau moderate. He's sort of almost like a post-Ted Cruz or something like that. I could probably get behind Glenn Youngkin as a candidate in 2028, since he had the wisdom. This is the problem with DeSantis. The biggest problem is that he showed a lack of wisdom by jumping in the first place. He should have waited. He's not honor bound to wait. There's nothing specifically wrong with him deciding to run, but it was a dumb decision. If you're going to go up against the uniparty machine in any measurable fashion, and I'm hoping that any candidate would, you need to have a great strategic capability. Youngkin has shown that. He also comes from a very important swing state. Florida at this point is not one of them. It's a deep red state at this point. Youngkin could easily become a president of the United States in the future. This is just another brick in the wall that he's creating as his fortification for that eventual election. And he might be an astroturfed candidate, but strategically speaking, he's very intelligent. I think 15 weeks is a cutoff that the average person would support. Now, there are far leftists who would say, no, it should be legal at any time. There are going to be evangelicals who say, no, it should never be legal. Neither of these are really pragmatic approaches, though. When you intend to govern, you must be pragmatic. What works? Not simply what do I think, what do I think is right, but what actually can be implemented roughly in line with what I think. Sparky. Putin wouldn't have had Prigozhin killed during BRICS summit, especially not along with innocent aircrew. Wouldn't have mattered to the Ukrainian SBU. I disagree. It was a power play. I believe that Putin had Prigozhin killed. And a follow-up, do you receive a happy ending with the code word clank? Yeah. The Patriot Cairo, come on, man. Hey, stranded Americans, you got to lower your expectations. It's the Sherry law thing. The thing. Just don't get tortured to death. Toxic Mix. Off topic, but have you ever looked into China's effective naval strength? I keep hearing legacy media watchers claiming they've outpaced the U.S. in ship production, which stinks of propaganda to me. They are producing a lot of ships. First, though, they have to do what India managed to do and float 2 aircraft carriers in tandem. So I don't think you have to worry for at least the next decade about China's naval capacity. The Commander 248, I was suspended from X for saying it was self-defense to run over street protesters who stopped people going to the hospital. It took 30 tries to get reinstated. Can I get a shout out? At the Commander 236. Yeah, I think that if somebody is impeding an ambulance and the ambulance runs over them, sucks to be them. I guess the ambulance can stop and, haul them behind as well. Alan Smithy, good morning from Atlanta, Georgia. Free shipping on indictments and BOGO votes with code OrangeManBad. Kitty, can you please stop distracting me? Lord of the clanking dem riggers. No cap, for real, for real. Yeah, the cat just won't stop. You can hear it probably. Wasted Bonehead Sticks, AKR 619, deserves a shout out so he can live stream on Rumble. Support this Uber Chad, my fellow riggers. Yeah, so AKR 619 on Rumble. You've got a shout out. Trip Boom, Clankers, join King of Biltong channel on Rumble, and I think he's on YouTube. The Kansas City strip he cut looked amazing. Yeah, I gotta get some good meat. Some biltong. Sparky, Uniparty got SCOTUS to get rid of Roe v. Wade to kill the 2022 midterms for non-Uniparty candidates. No. It was the Democrats' fault. They pushed the issue with Northam and others. They pushed the issue by attempting to institute limitless abortion, which means arguably up till you're literally crowning. And then there was a legal reaction, and that's what forced the case. They caused it themselves. Accidentally, it seems. Actually, they fucked up on that one. Aussie's Robots, if you want a guaranteed victory in 2024, sink the container ship that has 40 million Chinese printed ballots. That'd work. Trick Starry, it is not enough to simply be non-compliant. We must be actively defiant. Yes, honk honk on certain medical issues. I've been recommending that on my new tech exclusives for some time. Awesome Diesel, Sticks, do you really run these live streams, or do you have an AI that live streams for an hour a day? P.S. The AI's rendering of the shirt and beard looks almost real. I would love to see AI of myself at some point. Send me a link. Yes, it is actually me. It's not actually a robot. You know, I'm not Marco Rubio. You can't replace me that easily. You need the next generation of technology before you can step to my rhetorical skills. Next news story. This is a great one. Eminem tells Republican Vivek Ramaswamy to stop rapping his songs. Yes, he was doing Lose Yourself. You remember there when they were in that little convention. He was on stage basically being like a minstrel, and he was rapping. And at least he's got flow. I mean, middle-aged dude rapping Eminem. You know, it's not exactly the beat of the youth at this point. Eminem's basically 2000s for the most part. But yeah, he can rap for what it's worth. Anyway, Eminem's lawyers have sent a cease and desist to Vivek Ramaswamy. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the same Eminem who years ago would say, like, you know, basically, you're a bitch. I'm going to smack you with a poisonous tampon and just weird shit in his music. He's going to curb stomp people and cut his ex-wife into pieces and dump her in the river and stuff like that. And he's complaining about Vivek Ramaswamy using one of his songs during a campaign rally. And I just thought there's no better way to illustrate the whole concept of, for the most part, a person either dies young or they get older and they sell out. And I'm very glad that I'm 35 and I haven't done that, and I still say cunt all the time. And fuck the system, which I will continue to say even when I'm old and gray. But most people sell out. Most people aren't Johnny Rotten. Most people aren't Morrissey. Most people, in the end, they sort of make peace with the fucking system. The system being a cunt, basically. Vivek Ramaswamy is fairly innocuous as a candidate, and yet he's getting a cease and desist letter. And it reminded me of Donald Trump actually getting a cease and desist from Twisted Sister, actually from Dee Snider. By the way, there's a DD story in Orange Man Big Part 2, which is available. Link in the description, cross-platform, and pinned at the top if you're watching on YouTube to my books blogs. You go to the My Work section, you can find Orange Man Big and Orange Man Big Part 2. You'll laugh your ass off if you like satirizing leftoids. Lots of other stuff available there too. Just spend the next hour perusing. I'm sure you'll find fucking something you're interested in. I was reminded of that though. All these rockers, it's like, okay, Twisted Sister, for example. You spent the 80s effectively cross-dressing. And unlike Alice Cooper, you sold out, I suppose. And saying weird shit and like, you know, we're not going to take it. And, you know, haha, your kids are mine. Hey, be afraid, parents. I'm going to corrupt your kids on purpose and shit like that. And then, you know, decades later, you're worried because somebody's playing your music up on a stage. It's the same thing with Eminem. His heyday basically ends with Rap God. And since then, it's nothing. Who gives a fucking shit? Okay, you are one of the greatest rappers, at least by commercial sales, of all time. That's wonderful. You're an icon of the MTV era. You coordinated with Sacha Baron Cohen with that Bruno skit there that was admittedly very funny. You did Rap God, and you're rapping like a fucking 100 words a second or something. You're very talented. But now you've sold out. You've become the old fogey. You've become the same parent that you fucking rapped against back in the 2000s, back when I was a teenager. And it's just so sad and so funny at the same time. Howard Stern's a great example. Oh, I'm going to fuck the whole world. I'm going to fuck the meat effigy of this other radio industry member. And here's a dwarf fucking a prostitute. And here's a prostitute riding the Sibian and stuff like that. And now it's just very dry and very boring. And it's like, you lost your edge, dude. And it's really, really sad. And the sad part is, like, you want these people to keep their edge because the edge was what made them great. It's what made them fun. That's the whole fucking point. And then they lose it and they become very, very sad. And then you look back with nostalgia upon your youth and cry a few tears. I mean, I don't, but some other people do. I don't know. I didn't give a shit about the 2000s other than the video games mainly. AKR619, annoyed YouTube stuck you on 503K subscribers for 2 years now. Well, it has gone up a little bit over that period of time, but close. Also, searching your name on Reddit, our politics echo chamber shows nothing. Fuck Reddit. Who gives a fuck about them? Use 4chan. Huns with Guns. You should look up Foolish Pride by Eminem. He used to be very based and red-pilled. Oh, I know. He was a deep-seated misogynist. He'd say words that would get me banned on YouTube about gay people. He doesn't do that anymore, does he? That Manx guy sent $5. No comment. Thank you very much. Let's see here. Awesome Diesel. Sticks. Oh, I already read that one out. And a follow-up. Texas Martin Smith says Diesel thinks Sticks might be real. Real. Awesome Diesel's follow-up number 3. I'm really appalled at all the artists I listened to in the late 90s that are such, I agree with. It's Megan Sai says, Rage Against the Machine is now pro-machine. True. Godsmack AR69. Yes, Sticks, but before you said the GOP should give up on Michigan, how many states can we afford to surrender? Viva Wisconsin. Yeah, but I think of the two, Michigan is actually a better bet, honestly. That's just my own personal opinion. Sparky, Dems certainly gave SCOTUS reasons, but the timing of the leak and your boy, Lindsey Graham's pushing anti-abortion legislation was key. He's not my boy. I think he was John McCain's boy, his pool boy, so to speak. You know, he liked getting shit caught in his netting. Everybody fucking knows it, including John McCain's ghost. That being said, yes, the Democrats were the ones that led off. Lindsey Graham, of course, is controlled opposition. You're not going to get a debate about that from me. Mr. Neocon himself. Silvertree Consortium. Good morning, Sticks and Clank Nation. The PSYOP on Rumble is back from summer hiatus tomorrow. The PSYOP on Rumble. Now, you can see that if you're using Rumble. Trickstari. Rage on Behalf of the Machine is the new band name. Seems to be. Biden staffers met with special counsel Jack Smith's aides before Trump indictment. I'm not going to talk much about this one. That's at this point a couple days outdated anyway. I just wanted to point out, shouldn't we be more surprised at such transparent and naked political nepotism? Political incest, you could call it. When Donald Trump was first indicted by Alvin Bragg, it came as somewhat of a surprise to a lot of people. Now, is anything that's going on surprising? All the Biden revelations, the persecution of Donald Trump, the censorship of dissidents, all of the things that 10 years ago would have been considered spectacular, high-level A++ grade news are on page B at this point. Even by groups that have an axe to grind, like, the New York Post isn't exactly a pro-Biden publication. Even then, though, they're like, oh, here's an exclusive. Biden staffers met with special counsel Jack Smith's aides before Trump indictment. They act like it's no big deal. People have lowered their expectations to such a terrible degree with regards to the government and its decorum that there's really no decorum left. By the way, Steve Harvey, it appears that he has come out and denied that that story was true. There was the social media manager went rogue and posted about Steve Harvey's wife banging the security guard and the chef. However, when I look at the rebuttal that Steve Harvey issued, it looks more like, and this is just my opinion, it looks more like a cover. It looks more like she did fuck them, and Steve Harvey doesn't want to be taken to the cleaners and genuinely is a little bit of a cuck and a simp for his wife, and she sort of, got him by the balls, and decided to come out and disclaim that, fire the social media manager, even though the story was true. That's just my opinion. I don't have any proof of this. But when I read that, I said, this is a man who is trying to recoup his losses. His wife did bang other people, but he's willing, he's reconciled with her. And so he wants to prevent further problems and doesn't want to lose potentially 200 million big ones because he knows the system is rigged against him. Apache, do you think that the Fed will push the people so far they accidentally start that civil war Tim Pool wants and things get out of their hands? I don't think Tim Pool wants a civil war. I think he predicts a civil war, or at this point he uses revolution as the term. No, I don't think the Fed will be able to do that. If anything should do that, it'd be Trump getting killed or something like that. Jake Martin, gang, 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 ice cream, yum, got me feeling like a clanker. This has been a test of the Styx Hexenhammer AI system. Interesting. Ozzy's Robots. Trump doesn't need to rally to campaign. He needs to transition to live streams on X. In fact, he should do a mock jail live stream. That would be legendary. Somebody get that idea to him. He should have a background that looks like a prison or something, and then make jokes about it. Make jokes about dropping the soap. It'll be the most watched video in human history. Jack's Regret. Are you live on Rumble? Cannot find you on there. I wish Rumble was a little better. These lawsuits are going to be eventually hinder Trump. I don't think they hinder him at all, at least not in the primaries. Now, with Rumble, I will point something out. I have now for days had difficulty on Rumble. To those of you watching on Rumble, if any of you are in contact with the staff there, please tell them this as well. So it saves me an email exchange. I've had problems where I upload my daily videos and at least one of them doesn't get traction. Like it's not listed for multiple hours and it doesn't really make any sense. And I'm wondering whether that's to prevent spam uploaders. Like maybe 2 is the maximum in a 24-hour period and they get immediately published and then they manually publish the other ones or something. But I have noticed that, and sometimes I guarantee that I've clicked on my main channel on Rumble to publish the video. So it's not uploading as myself. It's uploading on Styx Hexenhammer 666, and yet it seems to go to the other channel that's associated with my account. I don't know exactly what's happening, but it's very disruptive. And since I do get ad revenue on Rumble and quite a few fucking views, it does hinder me somewhat, actually. But yes, I am live on Rumble. Casparius, I think if George Carlin was still alive today, he would have been a TDS wackadoodle for the machine. No, I think that he would still be nihilistic towards everyone. I don't think he would have changed his stripes. By the way, please send no more super chats. I have one more quick news story to get to, and we're running up on 50 minutes. Drew and Albane, Graham did not push anti-abortion legislation. That is the propaganda. He created and pushed a Euro-style law. No, here, Darun, the law that he was pushing was Euro-style, but his branding of it, his presentation of what he wanted to do, when taken in context, they didn't need to take him out of context, absolutely was a suggestion of the possibility that maybe we'll ban abortion. Absolutely. They weren't wrong on that. Lindsey Graham is absolutely a turncoat, and he absolutely did that on purpose. Deus Flex, as a millennial from my Wisconsin, I agree my generation is a lost cause for the foreseeable future. Better to invest in true swing states. Patriot Cairo, wealthy politicians desperately trying to connect and relate with young people is so fucking cringe. Warren's meme team, Vivek rapping, skateboards, dumb. Yeah, I mean, you would put it in that category, although to be in full admission, it wasn't as cringe as Warren's meme team. And certainly not as much as Beto's skateboarding. Ian, we need a list wiki of all those who have committed injustice in the name of leftist globalism for eventual lawful prosecution. That'd be a good idea. Now the dryer's going off upstairs. The Commander 248, Dems throw everyone in the same pile. Not all gay people support them. I'm a furry and I don't support the left or degenerates. At Neko, the Circle Game is the same. He's a Canadian YouTuber who hates Trudeau. Shout out to him. There you go, Neko, the Circle Game. Godsmack AR69. How do we win without Michigan and Wisconsin? Well, you find other states. Virginia comes to mind. I think that the Republicans can pick that up. Kitty724, longtime follower of your Rumble channel. FM Franklin, Tennessee. Love your live streams when we can listen. Thanks for all the work you do. Sticks, US. Thank you very much. Awesome Diesel, Sticks, thanks for your content. Thank you for the $50, my dude. That's another diaper fund. Yeah, man. And now we have sad news attributed to climate change, but it's really not. Climate change has ravaged India's rice stock. Now its export ban could deepen a global food crisis. Thankfully, this doesn't impact basmati rice, which I personally actually like. I'm not huge on eating a lot of carbs. Like, I'm not keto, but I've dropped a lot of the carbs from my diet in favor of meats and veggies and a lot of dairy products, actually. I've sort of reformed my diet because I've noticed like the easiest thing for me to digest is dairy. So not only am I not lactose intolerant, I must be like super lactose tolerant or something because I can just sit there and eat a whole fucking tub of cottage cheese, wash it down with milk, and it's fucking wonderful. Also, one of the tastiest things in the world, cottage cheese. If you don't like it, then suck my ass. Um, so I've sort of done that, but rice sometimes is necessary. You know, you're making like a dirty rice or something like that with chorizo, and it's tasty and it's a staple food for several billion people in the world. It's not like the wheat and grains or corn that you get in Western countries, sorghum in a few places, and oats, of course, and potatoes as a starchy food. Well, I think that you should limit your intake of starchy foods, carbs. Rice is good, and in its whole grain version is relatively nutritious, and you can make rice pudding and things like that. And what I was thinking, number one, it's funny that they're blaming climate change. You're effectively telling me that the subcontinent never has droughts or floods. Well, that's historically very, very spacious. Number one. Number two, the export ban itself. They're acting like, oh my God, there's going to be a huge shortage of rice. The problem is that in this same article, it points out that basmati rice is the most popular for export, and that's not affected by the exports anyway. So instead of getting your long grain rice, you have to eat basmati for a few months. That's basically what it boils down to. So who cares? Where's the news story? Okay, instead of however much per, you add 2 cents per pound for the rice or something like that. Haven't we seen far worse with Bidenflation? I think 2 or 3 cents more per pound of rice is not going to break the bank when people are already paying however the fuck much it is in the United States for gasoline or something like that. Anyway, the Indian farmers that decided to raise basmati instead of the other rices will make bank. They'll make a little bit more per item that they're selling. If they can make that extra 3 or 4 cents per pound, maybe they can spread out. They can get more land. They can get a better tractor and harvester. They can hire more hands or something like that. The free market will fix it, but they're trying everything that they can to convince you that it's about evil climate change and it can't be fixed. So when they put a tariff on rice or something like that and raise the prices artificially, they'll say that climate change caused it. In some countries, you watch and see if that's not true. Dark Gary 92, can't wait for Rumble to have the infrastructure for Rumble rants on mobile. Also, with Rumble uploads, I get errors, your new tech exclusives. Thank God I follow you on Minds and Honesty. Divert your online video players. Hashtag Trump 2024 or bust. I like food. Hopefully you like basmati rice. I'm making fried fish tonight myself. Thank you for your donation. Sparky, I hear people booked with Trump in Atlanta hired high-end Atlanta lawyers. High-end Atlanta lawyers are 100% hardcore globalists and never Trumpers. I'm an Atlantan, by the way. Hashtag legal betrayal. Interesting. Darun Albain must have missed the verbal context, only read it. Yeah, the verbal context, Lindsey Graham really put his foot in his mouth. I'm not going to mince words. I know that you're correct in the fact that the law that was offered wasn't quite what was presented, but the way he presented it was obtuse. He did the typical Republican thing, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. You've won on abortion. Yay, Roe v. Wade's gone. You've made it a states' rights issue. The first thing that you do is insinuate you want an abortion ban. Not the way to go. Anyway, I'm going to go offline because, of course, I have to cook later. We're running up on an hour. I've got other things that I have to do, too, like lay on the floor and play with blocks with my daughter, cook some fried fish, or just take a break for 10 minutes because I've been up since 6 a.m. and I've been working almost continuously the whole time. I don't mind hard work, but, you know, you need a little bit of time to yourself once in a while. I like watching Franklin Expedition documentaries at the moment. If anyone has any really good ones that are obscure, you can always link me in a DM on Twitter, by the way. Hashtag Lego Creation 06, good show, drop the soap. Drop the soap, don't drop the soap, baby. Don't drop the soap and don't bend over. By the way, I'm going to be making a parody of that song in the future. Ozzy's Robots, why hasn't one local GOP DA indicted Ziden? Because Orange Man bad. That's about all.